Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 49 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? So this week's something that I love is fake hardwood flooring, laminate floors or whatever. That stuff is durable, and it looks good to me. I don't got a problem with fake wood floors. Anyway, for more about this podcast, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is People We Love Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choit, my name. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is writer, producer, visionary, scene stealer, award-winning stand-up comedian, and lover of gorgeous men, Sampson McCormick. Sampson tells me the story of growing up in Washington, D.C. and being homeless with his mom for the majority of his childhood. But nothing stopped Sampson from going to school, working, and pursuing comedy in his teens. We talk East Coast comedy, we talk West Coast, and we talk one of Sampson's comedy heroes, the legendary Redd Foxx. So let's just get into this one. Here's Sampson McCormick. So it's good to see you today, Sampson McCormick.
It's good to see you.
Thank you for dropping by the studio. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
How's your day going, man?
It's going pretty good. I'm alive and had some good food.
You're alive and you had good food.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't take a lot to bring you joy, or does it?
It depends on the day.
It depends on the day.
It depends on the day, but I had good food, so that's all I need.
What did you eat today?
Sweet potato pie.
Sweet potato pie. Is
Yes.
Is that a meal or is that like dessert? What is that?
You can make it a meal
Yeah.
if you do the right things to it. But it's generally a dessert.
Yeah.
But it's the end of the year. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I'm just eating whatever I want.
That's right. But you stay in pretty good shape.
I'm trying.
You're trying.
I'm trying.
I hear you. What do you go to the gym? You work out or what?
I do different things. So sometimes I work out. Sometimes that gets boring, so I might run. I try to just stay active.
Active and have variety.
Yeah.
Cool. I got you. Why don't we rewind and go back to the beginning? Why don't you tell me your life story, and we'll start from birth and the ride home from the hospital, and we'll get right into it.
Oh Lord, not the ride home from the hospital.
Perhaps you don't remember that.
A little bit. No, I'm just playing. So I'm from DC originally.
And you were born there, and you grew up there.
Yeah, so I was born in D.C., grew up partially in D.C., partially in North Carolina, and partially in PG County, Maryland.
At different periods of your childhood, or?
I was everywhere.
You were everywhere, like going back and forth, kind
Bing,
of?
bing, bing,
Back and forth.
It was crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been hard, I imagine.
Not really.
No. Crazy, but not hard.
No. No. The funny thing is, you learn how to function in whatever chaos you grow up in.
That's just your normal. That's reality.
You need that to be healthy.
What's up?
You need that to be healthy.
You need to deal with chaos later in life. You got to deal with it earlier.
Yes.
In life, is that what it is? A little chaos.
Yes. A lot of people get afraid to deal with what I'm like, no, you take that shit on.
Yeah.
Do it.
What do you remember? Like, I mean, it sounds like you were moving around a lot, like even when you were what, like 5-6 years old?
Yeah. Well, we were staying in someone's basement and the water heater burst or something like that. So we had to move. And then we got this house. I'll never forget it, over in Northwest DC. It's downtown, kind of. Most people think about the White House when they think about DC. We live maybe 3 miles away, which is funny because people think about the White House. They think Capitol Hill and this and that, or, and the White House is actually in the hood. Yeah,
I've heard there are some rough areas in DC.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we live close by, and we were there for maybe 2 years. After that, we were homeless for maybe 11 years or something like that.
Damn, who's we?
Me and my mom.
Just you and your mom. Mm-hmm. It was always just you and your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no siblings.
I have two siblings, but we have different moms.
Yeah. So were you around them?
No, we just got close the last maybe 5 years.
Oh, that's cool. I guess that's awesome.
Which is
that's
funny.
quite a story. I imagine that whole in itself.
Well, we all kind of give each other a lot of space because we were all,
Sure.
the only child in our households. So we'll call each other once every 4 months and be like, "You alive? Yeah, I'm alive."
That's funny because you have something in. I mean, you have a couple of things in common, but you have those things in common for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, to get back to the original story, yeah, we were homeless for a long time. So, when you're looking for places to stay, you might be here, you might be there. Then, our family's in North Carolina, so you go down there and try to stay with family. Then you come back, you think you can get back on your feet. So it's just a lot of moving around.
Yeah, a lot. Nothing permanent.
Mm-mm.
That must have been just really hard. I mean,
it is, but I think that it teaches you how to. Life is crazy.
Yeah.
So it teaches you how to navigate and get through life.
It's been hard for your mom.
She's crazy. She liked it.
She liked it.
Yeah.
Come on, man. No, don't say that.
No, in case she's listening, I love you, Mom.
She embraced the lifestyle to some degree. Even lifestyle is not the right word at all.
Just the fabulous lifestyle of living in
that
a
is not the right word.
A geostorm.
lack of lifestyle.
Eating ketchup packets for dinner every night.
Damn, man. Oh, man. As long as you can laugh about it.
No, but you know what? You have to look at whatever it is that life throws at you. You have to deal with it, and you have to learn to appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure it's given you a ton of perspective.
You better have some perspective.
Yeah, so you were homeless for 11 years with living with your mom I'm guessing from ages.
From the time I was about...
Most your childhood.
Yeah, we didn't get a place until I was about 17.
Were you going to school during this time, or were you going to different schools?
Mm-hmm. Different schools. So, we might get into a rooming house or, boarding house or whatever they're called. And I might be at a school. So, I remember I went to Drew Freeman in Maryland. I could walk down the street 3 blocks, be to school in 5 minutes. But then maybe the lady lost the house that we were staying with. And so we were using someone else's address. And they found out I didn't live there. So I got kicked out of that school. So, of course, you got to go to another school. Where you can actually use an address. Was
the school that kicked you out, or I'm guessing that was a better school than the other one, or more convenient for some reason to go to? You don't even remember.
No. The thing is, you just do so much moving around.
Yeah.
So it kind of...
What about friends? Did you have a lot of friends? I mean, did you have a lot of friends in the city? You were just moving around mostly DC, so even if you moved, you probably weren't too far from friends, or did you lose touch with people a lot?
What's funny is I stayed in touch with everybody. That's back when you had to call people.
Yeah.
So I used to call people on the phone. You actually had to remember people's phone numbers. So I feel like there was a deeper connection that you made with people. Those are all kids that I grew up with. And it's funny because they all follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook friends. And these are people I've known 20 years.
Did you lose touch with them? And then they start to follow you when you...
No.
They just always stayed in touch with you?
We always stayed in touch.
And people from these different 3, 4, 5, whatever different schools you've been to, you just kept in touch with a bunch, handful of people from all the different schools, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Well, not even necessarily like handfuls, but
enough.
It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people. And we talked on the phone. Then you remember MySpace?
Sure, of course.
Then MySpace came out. So, people, you're on there. Then, for Black people. Before MySpace, there was Black Planet.
Yeah.
So
That I don't remember as well.
Oh man,
I was not on Black Planet.
Black Planet was like, you heard of like blackpeoplemeet.com.
Yeah, that I've heard of. Yeah.
It was like something like that.
Yeah, like a social media and social network. Yeah.
Black Planet was the bomb. And so a lot of them stayed, they were friends on there first. Then there was MySpace.
Yeah.
Then, so the social media.
You were able to keep in touch with people.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. What were you doing for like fun, like growing up? Like, what did you have? Did you have fun? Were you able to? Did you start to discover comedy? Did you play sports? What was your social life like? It sounded like you had friends and people you kept in touch with. But what did you do to when you weren't in school and moving around?
So, I'm a very serious person. Like, I'm not like stern, but it's growing up. I really didn't get a chance to figure out what it was that I liked because I was working all the time.
To help
pay bills.
What kind of work were you doing?
There was Miss Cooper. There were a couple of different ladies who had yard sales. So you would go help them run their yard sale.
And you were doing this probably when you were how old?
How old? I was from the time I was like 8 to 13 or something like that.
You're working man, working boy.
Always. I had to buy all my own toys. So this whole idea of, I'm showing my age now.
That's all right.
This whole idea.
You did it already with MySpace.
Oh shit!
And I knew, so I'm doing the same. It's all right. We're dudes. I think it's okay.
At least I didn't say AOL, which we kept in contact on AOL. You remember the disc?
Yeah, I remember everything, man.
You had to put the disc in the thing.
I think we're both older than we look.
I think so. So, I've always worked. We might go help run a yard sale. And then the money that was made from the yard sale, I would get money, for helping to set up the yard sale, break it down, help sell things. I would stand in front of a grocery store and help people to the car with their groceries.
Yeah, and they give you a tip or something?
Yeah. Stand at the gas station and pump gas for people.
Yeah. You're a resourceful kid.
Oh, hell yeah. Because nobody was just like, here's some money.
Right.
So, and I don't like talking about racism and stuff like that, but for people to understand the context, I do. So, a lot of people believe, this is a group of black kids walking down the street, they're robbing people, whatever. We never did that. We always worked.
Yeah.
And I have that same work ethic now.
I believe it.
So that's what I did. Worked for fun.
You said you did buy toys though with some of the money.
I would buy toys,
what did you buy? Kind of
handheld games.
Yeah, little video games and stuff to entertain yourself. You said you were working a lot, so you didn't really necessarily have a chance to discover what it is you love to just for recreation or joy. Do you remember like having feelings of resentment or like feel like you're missing out when you didn't feel like other kids are doing this and I'm working. You didn't feel like you were. It sounded like some of your friends were also working.
They were living life. A lot of them. Most of them were having sex, smoking cigarettes. I've always been grown. I've never even my friends now aren't my age. My friends, I'm in my mid-30s, so a lot of my friends are in their 40s, 50s. I got friends in their 60s. I have friends who are my age too, but they also are old people.
You have a lot of mature friends.
Yes, we got shit to do.
Right? Yeah. Whether they're your age or they're older, and often older.
Yeah.
Even when you were 20s, you probably had a lot of friends older then too.
I did.
You just started to make older friends as you.
They just had. I just realized how much of an old soul I am in a way. It's because I see a lot of kids who are in their 20s and they got to go to the club, and I never had time for that. Maybe I'd be one of those old people to be at the club. You know,
in your retirement.
I probably won't retire.
You probably won't retire.
Nope.
You're never going to retire.
Never.
Meaning, like, you're going to do stand-up comedy. Stand-up?
I love stand-up. I love writing. I love producing. I've produced 4 films now, including
That's amazing.
If you include 3 stand-up specials I did, that's 7 things. I love stand-up. I would love to do like the 6 shows on the weekend at the Improv, and then during the week do other stuff. But I just love creating. I love being a visionary. I love helping other people create things they want to create. You know, so I can't stop doing that.
That's awesome. As long as your mind is sharp and your body will let you. I mean, why not?
And even then, you can make it.
Right.
You can still make it, you know, let it do what you need to do.
Right. No doubt.
I have to stay active.
Creatively and physically.
Mentally, physically.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm the same. I think I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, people get fucked up when they start slowing down.
Right.
Can I say that? Can I say about that?
You can say anything you want, man.
Goddamn right.
You in the right place.
But yeah, you know, you have to if you slow down, life will catch up with you.
Right.
You can't slow down.
No, you got to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So when did you when did you discover comedy? If there's a lot of your journey before you discovered comedy, we can get to it. But what was high school like? I mean, we can get to the comedy, but
well, let's get into comedy and we'll go to high school, because comedy was something that I knew since I was 5 years old. I grew up on Johnny Carson. He was still coming on TV. Arsenio Hall, who was the black Johnny Carson.
Of course.
You know, Joan Rivers, all those folks. And it was funny because I was 5 and 6 years old, and I could look at the thing. You remember Comic Relief used to come on with Billy Crystal, Robin Williams. I used to watch that. And I was 5 and 6 years old, but I knew everything they were talking about.
You understood it.
I understood.
Wow. See, that's the thing. Everyone always tells me like they'll, I watched so-and-so R-rated comedy. I watched thing, and I didn't really understand a lot of it, but I knew it was funny. You understood what they were all talking about?
I knew what they were talking about.
Just because you had to grow up so fast, so you were around a lot of adults and adult behavior.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because if you are, I think I had a couple of Jewish friends that were really close growing up, and I know, and Asian friends too. I think it was one of the best things that we had growing up, because it taught us how to, like, number one, it taught us how to adapt, just being around different people.
Sure.
Like, the culture was different, but you notice the similarities that allowed you to be able to go into society and deal with other people. You know, I think every child should experience that. It was fun. And this is something that I feel like we aren't able to do anymore, is laugh about real life.
Yeah.
Everything that we hate and are afraid of, even though I'm not afraid of anything, but the things that we're afraid of, they're real because we create them, right? So we have all this, we have racism, we have violence, we have all this stuff that people are having a hard time dealing with, but I think they're having a hard time dealing with it is because we tell everybody, shut up, you can't talk about it.
Right.
You know, when we grew up, you know, if you had roaches, we talked about it, we laughed about it. You know, if your mama wig was crooked and, you know, she had dentures that she put in backwards, we talked about it because that was the reality. And that's how we dealt with those absurdities. I wonder if it has
anything to do with social media and, like, people, like, trying to present the best version of their life and not showing a certain side of them as much. Maybe that's something to do with how people act.
I think so. You know, we're unrealistic.
Right.
Very unrealistic. Like,
I think I might be part of the problem.
You think?
I don't like to be realistic. What the hell wants to be realistic? No, I'm realistic, I guess.
You gotta be.
Yeah, no, I know.
The issue, though, And this is why people are having such a hard time with comedy, is because outside of a place like a church or somewhere like that, comedy is one of those arenas that forces you to deal with reality.
Right.
But instead of bullshitting you with religion, we don't get up and comedy forced me to do that. Like, I mean, I grew up very religious. Like if you do anything wrong, God is going to strike you down with some thunder. You're going to hell, you won't be blessed. And those are horrible things a lot of people about. But you have places in churches that will kind of hang that over people's heads to have conversation or dictate reality to people.
Right.
Whereas in a comedy club, we use laughter to do it. And that feels good. That lets you know you can have conversations, you can survive things and open minds, and in this really weird way, because we aren't able to deal with reality, we are trying to suppress anything that really liberates us. And I feel like comedy is one of those things.
Yeah. No, I think that when you see comedians that they can, talk about anything and be such different people and all individuals, but if they make you laugh, you're listening, and while you're laughing, you're also listening to their point of view, their opinions, their thoughts.
And it might challenge you.
It might challenge you. You're getting all different people. You're seeing a lot of different comedians. Whereas if you're going to, say, a religious institution, you're getting...
You can't argue with that.
Right.
And they set it up so that you can't argue with it.
And you might see one comedian, then you'll see someone who with a different view and a different whole point of view coming up right next.
Well, I don't know, because if you've been to some of the right churches, like some of them pastors with their religious beliefs, they are comedians.
Okay, why don't you tell me about high school and comedy and Redd Foxx when you discovered him and get into it more.
Well, I've been in theater since I was 5 years old.
So you're doing theater,
mm-hmm.
and while you were moving around, you've been just going to different theaters and
always did theater. I always found theater.
And going to different churches too, or the same church? Did you always go to the same church?
We went to different churches. We went to what was the first church I remember? The first church I remember was Patmos in DC. And it was a Christian daycare center, but we went to the church.
Yeah.
Okay. And I used to get in trouble for cussing people out. Like, so I would preach these sermons because I saw the pastor preaching.
Yeah.
And I would watch comedy back, when I was, growing up, and I would see these stand-up comedians on microphones using the same cadence. Sometimes they would cuss.
Yeah.
And I thought they were preaching. So I didn't know the difference. I just
hilarious.
knew if you looked at like some Def Comedy Jam.
How old were you when you did this? And this is
I was about 3.
You were 3 years old.
I'm gonna tell you something.
And this was and you were like in daycare.
I was in daycare.
And you grabbed the microphone like you were.
No. Hold on, wait a second. So I would watch pastors, I would watch stand-up comedians doing their thing. Because one thing that people, if you have a black friend, you'll know 3 things that we grew up with. We grew up with the church, we grew up with hip hop, we grew up with comedy. Okay? But growing up, you see the influences, you see how people respond. Like if you go to a black comedy club, it's still this comedian who's up there, saying his shit to the audience, and they're clapping and waving their hands, and and you go to the church, they're doing the same thing. At that age, I was really young and I didn't understand that. So anyway, to get back to the original point I was making, I would go in this daycare center and I would pick something up off the table, like it might be a bottle or whatever, and I might start preaching. But I would like cuss while I was preaching because I thought that's what they were doing.
At 3 years old.
And I swear to God, at 3 years old. And then, so that always kind of went with me. I kind of paid attention to the same people. By the time I got to high school, I was in theater still. And my teacher told me, she said, you can write comedy. So
Because you were just funny and you were a good performer.
yeah.
What kind of stage shows did you do in theater? I mean, it sounded like you were doing it a long time. It's probably a lot of different kind of.
I mean, we did stuff. We did classic black theater because I mean, I grew up in DC public schools, PG County public schools. And so we did a lot of classic black theater.
Sure.
We did Dreamgirls. We did the Colored People's Museum. We did. I wasn't in the Color Purple, but they did the Color Purple. And then we did a lot of original things. You know, like there was Arena Stage, which was the most prestigious theater in the DC area. We ended up performing there. She picked maybe 3 of the 4 best writers who might have been in that class to like write things for this play. And if 4 of us wrote, I think 3 of the plays that I wrote got in there.
Man, that's awesome.
And they were funny. Like I had never written like a script for people like that. So I'm like, shit, you know.
Yeah.
I just did. It was my own shit, but it was like I just kind of wrote like the way that I saw on In Living Color, like the same shit that I saw in the front, you know, on the front steps outside, you know, somebody talking about your mama, you talk about their mama, you know, they hit you hard, you hit them harder. And I kind of like had that in these plays that I wrote, and they were like little 3-minute plays or whatever. And the audience fell out. And so my teacher, she told me, she said, so you keep coming to my class, you blurt things out in class, the kids are laughing at it. Why don't you go do something with your life? Like, why don't you go to a comedy club? And I thought that you had to like be famous to do comedy.
Yeah, you had to already be famous.
Mm-hmm. I thought you had to be famous. It wasn't until I went, and she threatened to fail me too if I didn't go.
Wow.
She threatened to fail me.
What was her name?
Carol Foster. I will never forget Carol Foster. And yeah, I'm thinking, all right, yeah, I'm gonna go down to this comedy club and, you know, knock it out the park. I thought you did it like the next day. Nobody said that you walked into a comedy club, you know, if 5 people were there who weren't comedians, that was your audience, and you had to figure out how to get funny in that.
How was the scene in DC?
Tough, but tight knit. You have to remember the best comedians came out of DC. So Wanda Sykes, Dave Chappelle, Tommy Davidson, Martin Lawrence, Louis Black. You know, did I say Dave Chappelle?
Yeah, they all kind of lived in DC, and
they're from DC. Okay, so and there are people. I mean, I love all those folks that I just named. There are people in DC who are doing comedy right now that are a lot funnier than all of them. You know, that will tell you what the caliber of what the bar for comedy is in DC. You know,
damn.
But back then, and I mean, that's the East Coast. That's DC, Philly, New York, Boston. All those. It's like tough. Like you got to be funny. Whereas out here, and I'm gonna get back to the original point in a second. Whereas out here in like California, like somebody could smoke weed or whatever and say some little silly shit out on the front porch and be like, "Oh yeah, you're funny. Go do comedy," and then they can go do it, you know, and it's funny because everybody else be fucked up, you know. Yeah. So, but when they go on the tours, it's like, you know, once they leave, because out here, like you can be funny.
But your shit might not travel.
No. Think about it. What do we do in California? Like, even if you got to work 2 jobs and shit, you in the sun, you looking at palm trees. So we're more laid back.
Right.
You lose that edge. Whereas over on the East Coast, you know, it's snowing and shit. And, you know, you over there with the president and just all, you know, all kinds of, it's just, and it's packed, like it's crowded and concrete jungle. And, that shit makes you tougher already.
Yeah.
You know, so back in the 80s and stuff, they were making AIDS jokes and, you know, and all the stuff is politically incorrect now.
Of course, yeah.
But I mean, I'm just being real. They were making rape jokes. They were making AIDS jokes. They were making, men would get up and they would put women down, and then if you were a woman, you had to just come back and be able to put them down. And a lot of those women from those eras in comedy where we laughed about everything, they could hang with the dudes, and a lot of those women are 60, 70 years old, can still rip up a comedy club.
Like a Joan Rivers or someone like that.
Fuck yeah. Joan Rivers came up during that time. She came up with Richard Pryor. She came up with Lenny Bruce and, he was around in there, the same way we look at like Chappelle. I guess that's where he was back then. But because comedy clubs were like more intimate and stuff, you could still like get to see a person like that more often. Joan Rivers, Phyllis Diller. I mean, I hate to say her name, Roseanne.
Yeah.
And I think comedy overlooks a lot of black women too. The Nell Carters and Thea Vidal's, Marsha Warfield's. These were black women in comedy who were talking about feminism before it became popular to do. Like Amy Schumer. And I'm not hating on Amy Schumer, but Amy Schumer can go get on the front cover of whatever magazine she was on in a bathing suit. Was like, I've been fat all these years and people have fat shamed me and I'm gonna embrace all of that now. And she'll get paid and she'll get a Netflix special. But these were women who were the only women on lineups with these black men who would get up there and, these bitches and just go in there and cook me a bowl of grits, Yeah. And you got to get up there as the only woman on this lineup and sock it to these dudes. And they would tear them up. These are women they big fat black women, okay, who got up and they embraced their stretch marks. They talking about what they wanted in a bedroom, you little dick motherfuckers. And that is feminism at its core. Yeah.
But they weren't going out saying, I'm going to be a feminist, I'm going to be this. It wasn't, they weren't going out making a political statement. They were just living their lives and responding to what was coming at them, really.
Yeah, to what was coming at them, and from their perspectives. Okay, just honest perspectives as plus size women, as black women. They, weren't looked at as beautiful or whatever, but they were in these comedy clubs and they were doing it. When people were saying, "Oh, they're ghetto, they're loud, they're this, they're that," but like now, people do that, the same thing they were doing, and it's like, stuff that they didn't get credit for.
Right. It's easy to be brave when your opinion is the widely held one, and you're not like under pressure and being attacked from all angles.
Yeah, and so to get back to the original point, if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about comedy and the sociology around comedy. But to get back to the original point, so there was just a time where you had to be really, really tough in comedy. Like you had to like be able to talk about real shit and bring it. And I feel like here in a lot of other cities where, that have become kind of gentrified and like restructured around how we package shit and everything's problematic or whatever, people will come to a comedy club and they'll be like, it's almost like they come to listen to your jokes and not laugh, but pick apart word by word why it's funny or not. Oh, well, that's not funny because, I mean, I get your attempt to create inclusive humor, but you talked about rabbits and sunshine and you left out kittens and rainbows. I know you're joking around, but do you actually get like feedback that is kind of like along those lines? Yes. Why is anyone even giving you feedback? Because people are that dumb now. Okay. They're that stupid. So again, to get back to the original point, though, it's a lot around it. I came to talk. So
in the right place.
So out here, it's more like I'm going to create these jokes. I mean, there are some people out here like on the West Coast who don't give a fuck. And it's, oh my God, it's refreshing to see. But most people, they're trying to like, I want to make sure I say this the right. So they aren't authentic.
Yeah.
Okay. And, they end up talking about peanut butter or some shit that's like not funny. Whereas if you go back east, where it's a concrete jungle, you got rats, neighbors, you can do whatever. Like y'all are right on top of each other.
You're a true East Coaster, huh?
I'm a serious East Coaster. That drives you crazy. So you have to find a way to like make sense of it all. And you don't have time to go see a psychiatrist. So that shit, you got to filter it out by keeping it real, processing it. What's the best way to do that? When you can't see a psychiatrist, laugh at it.
Why are you not in New York or somewhere? Is there more opportunity here?
I've come here and I've gotten comfortable in California.
Yeah. I see. You're saying all these things, but I think you're telling yourself not to. You're like reminding yourself not to get too comfortable.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. I mean, I'm doing it now because it's the end of the year.
Sure.
But you can't. We are so lucky to be in, and this is why a lot of people want to move to places like California and Florida, because it's an oasis. It's an escape from the real world. Like when you leave California and you want to see what's really happening in America, go to Detroit, go to Chicago, go to, Kentucky.
Do I have to?
You don't have to. I've been doing it for you. But you go and it's just like, I like to go. I like to do comedy in those places because you have to keep it real.
Yeah.
So luckily back then when I started, whereas you'll go to an open mic now and 20 comedians might show up, and that's painful to be at an open mic. I thank goodness that I did not start comedy now. Because back then you would get a real audience who would come out for open mics. So you might go to do an open mic and 40 people are there in the audience. And everybody wasn't trying to do comedy back then. So they used to have to beg people to sign up. And number one, because you knew you had to be funny as fuck. You couldn't just be funny, you had to be funny as fuck. Especially in DC, you can't.
Even at an open mic.
Fuck yeah.
Damn.
I mean, DC is a place like DC. I mean, you can get on the train and you can see somebody stand up and by accident stand up and do some shit to have everybody on the floor laughing on the train.
Yeah.
Or if you're in DC, like your aunt could be driving you to McDonald's and say some shit that have you in there rolling.
Yeah.
So if people are coming to a comedy club, and I'm talking about some shit that belongs on television.
Yeah. You got to make them laugh more than their aunt.
Absolutely. That's the mentality.
As much.
You have to make them laugh twice as hard.
Yeah,
because their aunt might stand up in the comedy club and take over the show.
Well, then maybe she should be on the stage.
Well, see, that's the thing is that doesn't always translate.
Yeah,
what's funny, it don't always translate. But yeah, back then you would get a real audience and it forced you to get good fast.
So what happened when your high school teacher encouraged you to do stand up? You started going to some of the open mics, and were you listening to Redd Foxx or other comedians when you started to write? When did you discover him?
I discovered Redd Foxx when I was young because I used to look at Sanford and Son.
Yeah, you watched it.
I love Sanford and Son. Watch it, sucker. All that stuff. You big dummy, I'm coming home, Elizabeth.
Yeah, they have such a great rapport on the show.
Yeah,
Sanford and Son.
That was a great show, and it's still a great show.
Yeah.
And then I found out he did comedy, and it was just his voice, and I liked them dirty jokes. I used to listen to his comedy records on a CD player. No, on a tape player, cassette player. I had a Walkman. And I used to walk to school and listen to Redd Foxx tapes.
Did your mom know you were listening to this adult comedy? Did she not? It sounded like she probably didn't even care. She had other things to worry about. She sounds like a character herself.
How'd you know?
No, you said. I don't know if character was the word you used, but you used some word that was similar earlier.
Like, woo. Woo. Woo!
She didn't care. She didn't
she
know.
did, but there's a certain way you can get around it by just not letting it slip out in your behavior or things you might say.
Yeah, don't go around the house doing Redd Fox's act.
Hell no. Hell no.
Did you ever get caught, like,
I never got caught.
listening to or reciting inappropriate jokes?
By the time my mom heard, because at first I got barred from doing comedy because I started when I was like 16. And every Wednesday I would go down to Teddy's House of Comedy to do the Wednesday night open mic. And when I first started, I just did dumb stuff that, like, at school I could fall out the chair and I could get people to laugh. Or there was no teacher that I could raise my hand and ask some question or whatever. So I would do a lot of gimmicks. I would take a wig, or I would take some silly glasses, or I would like get up there and chew some gum. You know, I would do something silly and I would have to up it every week. So I took one of her wigs that she never wore and I would sneak out to do comedy. And I always had to be in the house at 7. I think it had probably been going down there for maybe a month or whatever. And so that she wouldn't catch me, I would wrap a towel up on the sofa, like a blanket or something, and I would curl it.
Yeah, she was sleeping.
Like I was sleeping, and I would leave a pair of shoes by the couch, you know, and maybe a shirt, and I would put the blanket over top of it, and it looked like I was curled up sleeping. So she never said anything, and she would be asleep by the time I came home, so I would just sneak back in the house. For some reason, one night, she decided she wanted to wear that wig the next day, and it was gone. So it was always, well, I didn't move it, so you moved it. Well, you know, it didn't have legs.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard that one.
It didn't get up and walk.
Yeah.
So she came out there and she like poked at the blanket or whatever. I didn't move, so she pulled it back. She was like, I came home from the comedy club. She was in the front yard with about 5 police officers.
Wait a minute. She was looking for her wig and yeah, I see. You weren't home when she was looking for the wig.
So then she was like, oh my God, did somebody kidnap my son? Did he run away? You know, whatever.
I mean, why would she call the cops? It was obvious that you snuck out if you made this whole
because she's dramatic.
Yeah, she made this whole to scare you and both maybe
to scare herself. She's dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, it's so obvious that you just I'm sure she was upset and you I guess deserve to be punished, but so obvious that you made the fake bed. Fake body and fake bed. You didn't get kidnapped.
You don't understand drama, okay?
I guess not.
So I come walking up and the cops are outside with flashlights and shit. And, you know, I'm walking up the street and they shining the flashlight all in my face, and that's embarrassing. You know? And she's like, oh, she praying and stuff. Oh my Lord. Ooh, oh, I was praying. Ooh.
You're also 16. You're not 4.
Well, that's the thing. Is so the cops are out there and they're walking towards me with the flashlight and they're like, "Is this him, ma'am?" Oh.
They're like, "This is an adult." What did the cops say? The cops were expecting a 7-year-old.
Yeah, they thought I was 3 because she never told.
She never said your age. And the genius police officers probably didn't ask either.
She never. So, because I know her, when I say drama, so she probably picked up the phone and they probably attempted, well, is he a toddler? He just gone, whatever.
Yes.
And by the time they got there, she probably wasn't saying anything. She probably was just like, oh my God, he ran my baby. She my baby. And then, I walk up and they're like, ma'am, we thought he was a toddler or something. And then they just said, let her know when you're leaving the house.
Yeah.
They got in the car and drove off.
And what did she say when the cops left? Was she pissed off, I'm guessing?
Oh, she prayed for me. She was like, I got to pray for you. Where's my wig, first of all?
Yeah.
And
yeah, what did she say about the wig? Did you?
Oh, she thought I was a transvestite, or she thought I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
2019,
okay.
But I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
My transgender friends know I love the community.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what she thought I was. She thought I was a transvestite.
She didn't know you were doing comedy at all.
No.
Yeah.
And when I say transvestite, because I'm gonna clear that up, because people will, no, don't even do it. So you see what you got to do. You got to explain what you meant and shit like that.
I know what you meant.
But that was the term back then.
Sure.
There was no education around sexual identity and this and that. People automatically assume if you were gay that, you dressed up like a woman, and I like having a penis, so I don't got time for that. And so she was just like, I just, why would you take my wig out? Did you put it on? And I was like, yeah, because I tell the truth,
Yeah.
Why would you put the wig on? Like, you trying to be a woman? No. Then what was you doing? I was working. I think I did that to fuck with her a little bit.
You said working? As if you're out there working the streets? Oh, man. You're going to make your mom crazier. Well, maybe she deserved it a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. It's not for me to decide.
But yeah, that's how she hated me doing comedy at first because there was all that drama. And she...
Were you out of the closet at this point?
No.
No.
No, I was to everybody but her. No, but if mama don't know, because it was a big deal back then, like if you told somebody, hey, I came out of the closet.
Especially to your church, if I gather from your act and material.
So the thing about that too, and we're going to get back to the point in a second, is people know, but they're in denial about it, and they want you to be in denial about it. So even if you are, gay or whatever, and they ask you, you better say no. And to me, that's closeted. So I was closeted.
Sure.
But so to get back to the other point real quick though, so my mom, she found out she was totally against me doing comedy for the first couple of years. I was doing music, like I would do music covers of like hip hop or whatever and sell them at the comedy shows. So I would do Mystical had this song called Shake It Fast, Watch Yourself. And I wrote a song, I made it the crackhead anthem. So, and it became really popular. Like people loved the song. It was like, still a fan, break into somebody's house, get your crack, whatever you got to do to get your crack. And, it was a popular song. Like people started like that album. I don't know. It was like a little CD, and people passed it around DC. And now to call somebody a crackhead is politically incorrect, but that's how you dealt with the reality. You made fun out of it. Like, sure, just come in and steal my ceiling fan. But on that album, I was cussing. Right. So my mom, she hated the fact that I came home smelling like cigarettes. With older black women like that, you do something like take their wig one time that sit with them wrong for the rest of their life. I remember when you stole my wig. So it was that, the cursing, because I grew up in church. So when she heard this record, she heard me on there cussing. She was totally against me doing comedy. It wasn't until she came to a show that I did about 4 years in, and she saw me make money from doing it. Of course, I had to give her some. And she saw just like that I put this show together, like 20 or 30 people came out. They were laughing, having a good time.
That's cool.
Then she started she was like, when you doing another comedy show?
She's a fan.
Yeah.
Is she a fan now? She's a supportive mom, but she's not. You wouldn't call her a fan. It's complicated.
And I believe anybody in show business. I mean, even I have friends who are legit, like they're famous, like they walk down the street, people know who they are, and they still have parents who say, "Oh, well, okay, well, you're on a show, but you haven't won an Emmy yet, or whatever."
That's funny you say that, because I interviewed someone who talked about Johnny Carson as being his big influence, and he said Johnny Carson's mom was just a failed actor, or didn't get as far in life as she wanted to in the business, and he won like Emmys or whatever, and she would be like, "Oh, that's nice," or so, she would be like very nonchalant about it, like. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess it's funny how like your parents or these close relationships, it's more about it's satisfying them, or what is it?
If you don't keep the right perspective about it, because I was one of the first out black gay men in stand-up comedy. Almost 2 decades. I've broken a lot of barriers in this business around the conversation about sexuality and comedy, and because there were a lot of clubs that would not book gay comedians. Or that you could come in on Pride Night or whatever, but very few even got the opportunities that allowed them to work in clubs as headliners.
I bet there's many comedians in LA that find that probably maybe not hard to believe, but like,
again, we're in LA.
Hard to remember or hard to think about that.
Well, yeah, it's LA is a very fast paced, it's a lot going on. So LA is trendy. LA is whatever is cool. But even if you go back, in a place like, in New York is trendy now. So, you have some there, but that's within the last 5 years.
Yeah, but the different time periods, 10, 20 years ago in New York, LA, I bet it was
very
quite different.
Much so. And it took me a long time to say it, but I didn't say it. Other people were saying it. Like, I am a pioneer in this industry.
That's awesome, man.
And even accomplishing all those things that I've accomplished without a lot of the advantages that some of my friends have, you still will have a close relative, like a parent or even a spouse or partner, go, "Oh, that's cool that you've done X and this and that, but you're not on a movie or whatever."
Yeah.
And there's a positive way to take that and harness it.
I want to hear this. I'm curious how to respond to this, or how you respond to this type of thing.
Ignore them.
Yeah.
You have to ignore. Because the thing is people can see greatness in you. I think a lot of people are afraid to look within and see it in themselves. So when they see another person has it, it threatens them.
Right.
So there's this thing, and I think a lot of parents have it, where it's like they do want better for their kids, they want better for themselves, but they're afraid of it. And so that's why a lot of parents are self-sabotaging, or they sabotage their children or whatever, because they're really afraid of it. And then some of them are just greedy, like they just greedy, they're trifling, they don't want that child to surpass them in life. And I thought you want your kids to do better than you. But you have to deal with that. I personally feel like having, and I don't have a problem saying this, having a mom that was not easily impressed by anything allows you to be able to go out into the world and know people are going to hate on you, and you still got to keep it pushing.
Right.
So I love critics. I love people who tell you what you can't do, or I love when people doubt you, because I shut them down.
Yeah, it motivates you.
Absolutely. So even if you had people like my ex-boyfriend dumped me because I do comedy.
He dumped you because you do comedy. Mm-hmm. Didn't he know you were a comedian before going in?
I was doing it because we were together, 5.5 years. I've been doing it. I had been doing it at least 11 years by the time we met. He thought he could handle
it. Is that what it was?
Yeah. People don't understand in comedy. I'm pretty sure. I can act because I come from theater. I have an appreciation for representing a character. But I'm not one of those people who wake up with a script in my hand every day or my resume with a headshot, like, but it's still a hustle. Like all of it is a hustle.
What was it that your ex couldn't handle? Is it because you were busy? Is it because you were talking about personal things or sexual things or dirty things on stage?
I don't talk about sex on stage. I do an innuendo.
Sure. Whatever it may be.
But that's another thing. I mean, we'll get to that in a second. But it's mostly that you aren't always able to be emotionally available. You aren't always able to be physically present because you have to go out and do shows. You're on the road every weekend.
The lifestyle is tough on a relationship.
Yeah, and they want to go with you because they think you can go, like they can be a little travel pooch or whatever, and just be cute and which you get to that point, but usually when you're on the road, like they don't pay you enough to be bringing people with you and taking care, unless you get on. So that's hard. Then I'm pretty sure some of them are insecure, because they know people come up to you after shows.
That was my next question. Yeah. The attention from others.
They were doing that before I ever got on stage.
Look at you. Look at this guy. There you go.
But yeah, there's just a lot. So you really have to learn how to just and those are people that should have your back. They're closest to you and they give you the most problems. It sucks, but it allows you to go into the world and be able to deal with strangers who look at you the same way.
Yeah.
Because nothing affects you deeper than somebody who should be singing your praises, not giving a fuck and being unimpressed. Nothing drives you to go out into the world and do your very best more than that.
Yeah. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, well, I was going to ask about where did you go? Well, we were talking about Redd Foxx a little bit, but if you had anything more to say on him. And then I was going to ask about like your journey in comedy, like, after high school, and you said your mom saw you 4 years in, so you must have been about 20. So about your early 20s and your journey to LA, and we can go from there.
Yeah, Redd Foxx. My favorite album of his is Live at the Apollo. He was drunk. He was high.
Was that like when he was on the younger side or when he was an older?
He was always old.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah, was he always old?
I'd never seen him young.
Yeah, because he was old when I was,
I've always, and he wasn't even that old when he died. He was like 69 when he died.
The guy was just always 70.
He was always 85. But I love him. I just relate to him. I'm not dirty on stage, but if you sit down with me on the couch, my mouth is filthy. And I like comedy like that. I like that comedy like that gutter, just nasty. Now, do I crack jokes like that on stage? No. Off stage, I'll cuss a little bit more. I'll be a little naughty. I talk about sex on stage, but not on stage. I'll talk about sex sitting on the sofa. When I'm on stage, I don't talk about it just because when you're creating comedy, it's like preparing a meal for a bunch of people. You can't season it the way you would season it for yourself. You got to season it so it's palatable for everybody if you're going to be a good comedian. Okay? But I like listening to that comedy that has the contrast from what mine's is, because it kind of feels it a little bit in a weird way.
Inspiration to hear different voice, different styles. Because maybe you can take one tiny element of that and use it for yourself.
Yeah, like it gives the stuff that like
keep it fresh for you.
It keeps it fresh for me, but it also like my stuff is not raunchy. My stuff is risque.
Okay,
it's risque. You can't be dumb to come to one of my shows. Well, you can, depending on the night. I might educate. But I just like it because the raunchy humor, it's nothing is raunchier than Yo Mama, when she gonna find your daddy? Like this is this is. I don't know. Anyway, I love Redd Foxx because he was just dirty, and I grew up with it. Like Yo Mama stuff, that's dirty, but I didn't get to hear the 4-letter words and that type of stuff in a comedy set. Like, somebody's heckling him, and he's like, usually I would shut somebody like you up with my zipper stuck. It's really raunchy, crazy stuff. So. Yeah, I've always had a thing for Redd Foxx.
Have you always been comfortable on stage? Because I can even see like some of that comparison between you and Redd Foxx, just like his delivery and just like the guy just seems like the guy's in his office on stage. And even you, I remember when seeing you perform, you seemed like just from the first 20 seconds, I could see that you were just looked so comfortable and in your element up there. Is that something that you always had and something you noticed in Redd Foxx even? Being comfortable up there?
Well, number one, I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. So
you just got more and more comfortable.
Yeah, it's showing up to like do something like you got to do. As far as talking to people on stage. That's what makes it work for me, is because I'm not up there just performing. I'm talking to the room,
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation.
That's what it says on your website.
Yeah. It's a conversation. I mean, I perform it a little bit.
Sure, of course. It's your style.
Because you have to perform it a little bit, but it's a conversation.
I got you.
And that makes me comfortable because then I'm like there. I'm grounded in that moment, having that conversation with the audience. I'm not bullshitting them.
Right. You're not performing something that's too rehearsed. You're still able to be in that moment.
I'm still me.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's cool. When did you end up in LA and how did you end up in LA? What made you come to LA, and what's the LA story?
I avoided LA like the plague. I did not want to come to LA.
Just because you're an East Coast guy.
Because I was East Coast. It wasn't necessarily the, I'm not scared of competition or any of that or whatever. It was, I had been working so long that I knew in LA, comedians who've been in movies have to go at a comedy club and work for free at 1 a.m. or, So I knew in a way I would have to come here and start over a little bit.
Yeah.
And that, maybe it was ego. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, fuck.
It's a big decision. It's a lot moving. It's just a lot involved. So,
I wanted to avoid all that.
Yeah, it sounds like you were almost putting it off.
Oh my God.
To some degree. You knew maybe it was the best thing for you and something that you deep down wanted to do, but you were putting it off because there would be a lot involved with moving across the country.
So the way that I moved to California was I had my ex. We met. We were together for about a year.
Met on the East Coast.
We met on the East Coast. And then he used to have these dreadlocks. And that's one of the things that attracted me to him. I liked his hair. And he just came home, and I was in bed. I think I was sleeping. He opened the door, and I just seen this big old bald bobblehead come walking into the room, bobbing back and forth. And I was about to pick up something and knock. I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who?
Defend yourself.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on.
Who's this strange man in my home?
Like, who that? And, he said, it's me. He turned the light on, big old egghead. And he said, I'm like, what you cut your hair for? He's like, well, I just, this is a lot, but I got into law school. And I'm like, okay, where? San Francisco, and we're moving there. And I'm like, who's we? He's like, we're moving there. And I didn't want to break up with him, but I'm like, shit. So we moved to the Bay Area.
Did you know that he was applying for law school?
Oh, I knew he was applying.
And in California.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
but I didn't think he was coming back. He kept saying, I want to go to California. I want to go back to California. But I was hoping that he would go to like Howard so I could stay in D.C. We moved out. That was so hard to move to California.
Even to San Francisco, you weren't excited. It wasn't.
I was excited, but I'm from the East Coast.
Yeah, it was a big adjustment.
to move across the country where I had friends and stuff over here, but my people are on the East Coast.
Right.
To move across the country with some boy, and love is not a guarantee for anybody.
Sure, yeah, of course.
That was a big risk to take. I had just quit my job to do comedy. I had quit it to do it full time, rather. I had $5,000 in the bank, 3 suitcases and 2 boxes, and we moved. That was so hard.
You drove cross country?
No, I flew.
You flew.
I mailed 2 of my boxes,
things, yeah.
and then I mailed 3 boxes, and I bought 2 big old suitcases.
Nice.
And I've stayed. And then we broke up. I'm telling you my life story.
Oh, I asked for it.
Gee whiz. You were getting it tonight. And long story short, as if the story hasn't been long enough, we broke up. It just was too much for him. We stayed together for 5 years, 5.5 years. We broke up. And when we broke up, he moved to Sacramento and I moved to LA.
That was going to be my guess. So, I mean, maybe, part of your whole life journey was meant to be because, like...
I would have never come to California on my own.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But do you see it that way? Like, I'm glad it worked out this way, so I ended up in LA. And you're like, whatever, I'm here, I'm doing my best, I'm working, but I'm still an East Coaster at heart. You're just making the best of whatever situation you got.
Well, you got to do that anyway.
Right.
But maybe I would have never come to LA on my own. I'm going to tell you, I'm glad that I did not come to a place like LA when I was young and ambitious.
Why is that?
Because you don't want to come to LA that dumb and excited.
Why is that? Why not? If you're working hard and you're funny, or you're working on your craft and you're serious about it,
that's cool too. But you don't want to come to a place like LA that dumb and that excited. You don't. And the thing that some people are intelligent enough to do it, but if you weren't equipped with or naturally, have the intellect to be able to like look at things, and really you kind of have to look at them as black and white in a way to be really logical about all of it. You can't move to a place like LA and just be like, oh, I mean, you can have a little bit of that. Like, it's whatever you move here for or with, you can have it. But some people are just like driven by it and they get fucked over.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. I'm glad because back at home, I was just too trusting. I was like I trust everybody. Everybody's great, everybody's honest, if you work hard, this and that. And so if you don't have the disappointments and
I see. It's the lack of life experience that
you can't come to a place like LA with blinders on.
Right.
Especially if, and I mean, it is a majority show business. There's tech here. There's other things.
Sure,
but I'm talking about show business. If you have all those naysayers, if you have all that adversity and on top of that, you're driven by, oh, well, I got to go, no. Mm-mm.
But it sounds like you adjusted here. You're making moves. You're doing comedy. You're making movies. You're acting. You're producing.
Well, I had to learn.
Yeah.
I had all that, but yeah, I'm glad I went to the Bay Area. The Bay Area taught me a lot.
What did it teach you?
How to stand on my own 2 feet. Back at home, of course you can beat a bomb when you at home with your home crowd.
But it was a whole fresh. The fresh start getting the fresh start in San Francisco helped you prepare for the fresh start in LA.
Big time. It's
I hear the scene is pretty good scene up there too.
It's good. It's not what it was, but it's good. You know, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, San Francisco had a beautiful comedy scene. It's still nice, but it's a little watered down.
Yeah.
I don't like watered down comedy.
I gather.
You know,
I gather.
don't like that.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you perform again soon for sure.
Yeah, it's I just like to keep it real. You gotta keep it real.
You've been doing that in that chair for sure, and I appreciate your time. I don't want to take up too much more of it. I'm sure you got things to do and places to go and whatnot. So why don't you tell the audience where they can find you on social media, upcoming shows, what you're working on? I know you just put out a movie. You can tell everyone about that. I'll give you the floor and do your thing.
Yes, so you got to check out Party and Play. Party and Play is on YouTube, so it's Party-N-Play. That's on YouTube. If you look that up and put in Sampson McCormick, it should come right up. It's a really great film that you have a good time watching. It's high camp. You know, we got a bad review on it today, and I'm like, have a sense of humor.
That doesn't bother you.
Not at all.
That fuels you, if anything. Doesn't bother you, or it fuels you. Or...
I'm a sinner, some weed.
Yeah. No, don't say that.
I'm a sinner, a little gift. SampsonComedy.com, big time. I'm like, you that uptight doing film reviews. SampsonComedy.com. And Instagram is Sampson McCormick. So Instagram, just SampsonMcCormick.
Cool. So if they find you on those social media and places and websites, they can find shows and see what you're up to. And
I'm always working on something.
It sounds like it. Again, I appreciate your time, and let's talk soon.
Thank you.
Take care, man. So there you have it. My conversation with Sampson McCormick. Yo, that dude is mentally tough. I cry when Trader Joe's is out of those bags of those mini avocados. But for real, I thank Sampson for his time, and I look forward to seeing him on stage again real soon at a show. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. And, thanks as always, of course. And let's talk soon. Peace.